Captain Alina Voss stood on the command deck of the Athena, staring at the holographic display before her. The Tyrant fleet loomed large across the galaxy, a dark wave of destruction, slowly swallowing every world in its path. Their relentless campaign had left no room for escape, and humanity's last defenses were now scattered across the star systems, hoping to delay the inevitable. Her fingers hovered over the controls as she watched the enemy forces come into view on the scanners. Tyrant warships, massive and intimidating, flanked by sleek fighter crafts, were closing in on a vital human colony. It was only a matter of hours before they would wipe it out, just like all the others. "Captain," a voice interrupted her thoughts. Lieutenant Sam Carter, her communications officer, glanced at her with concern. "We've received another distress signal from the colony. They're requesting immediate assistance." Alina tightened her grip on the rail, her mind racing. This wasn't just another battle. It was their last chance to slow the Tyrant advance. If they failed here, humanity would lose its final foothold in this part of the galaxy. "Patch it through," Alina ordered, her voice firm despite the pounding in her chest. The feed flickered to life, revealing the face of General Armand, the commander of the colony's defense forces. His expression was grim, his voice tinged with desperation. "We need help, Captain Voss. The Tyrant are overwhelming us. We have no way to fight back, unless you've heard the old stories." Alina's brow furrowed. "What stories, General?" "Not stories. Legends." Armand's voice trembled. "I know it sounds crazy, but we've heard rumors for years now. A warship, built by our ancestors, far beyond anything the Tyrant or even our own fleet has ever seen. The Aurora. It was said to be lost, but if it's real, it could be our salvation. You've heard of it, haven't you?" Alina's heart skipped a beat. She had heard the myth whispered in the halls of command, passed around like a tale to give hope to soldiers in desperate times. But it was just that, a myth. The idea that a warship from humanity's distant past could change the outcome of the war was absurd. There was no evidence, no records, nothing except old rumors. Yet, as she gazed at the stars beyond the Athena's viewing window, a nagging thought tugged at her. Could it be true? Could there really be something out there, something humanity had lost, that could turn the tide of the war? "General," she said, her voice steady but with an edge of uncertainty, "we'll be there, but there's no way the Aurora exists. If there's something out there, it's a myth." Armand didn't respond immediately, but his eyes darkened. "I hope you're right, Captain. But it's the only thing we haven't tried. The Tyrant are too strong, and we're running out of time." The transmission ended, and the deck fell silent. Alina turned away from the screen, her mind reeling. Was she willing to gamble humanity's survival on a legend? What if the Aurora was real? What if it wasn't? The uncertainty gnawed at her. "I'll start preparing the fleet," she said aloud, as much to herself as to the crew around her. "We need to act fast, and we need to find whatever we can to slow the Tyrant down." As she walked briskly toward the ship's bridge, the words of the myth echoed in her mind. "The Aurora will return in humanity's darkest hour, a weapon of unimaginable power, forged to save the galaxy." Alina didn't believe in myths, but what if, just this once, the impossible was real? The Athena's engines roared to life as it accelerated toward the colony. The distress signals from the planet became more frantic, but Alina remained focused. There was little time left, and she knew their chances of survival were slim. Her thoughts were clouded by the conversation with General Armand. The myth of the Aurora gnawed at her. It seemed impossible. There was no record, no trace of the ship ever existing outside of rumors. And yet, here she was, hoping against hope that something so fantastical could be true. "Captain," Lieutenant Carter's voice snapped her back to the present. "We're picking up an anomaly ahead." Alina's gaze snapped to the sensors. A strange ripple, like a wound in the fabric of space, appeared on the long-range scanners. It wasn't anything the Athena had ever encountered before. No conventional wormhole, no spatial rift that could be explained by the science of their time. The anomaly pulsed in irregular intervals, as if calling them toward it. "Can you get a clearer reading?" Elena asked, her voice steady but her pulse quickening. Carter worked furiously at his console, but the data made no sense. "It's fluctuating." "I'm not sure, Captain. It's almost like it's a tear in reality itself." A chill ran down Elena's spine. She had heard of theoretical rifts in space, anomalies that could lead to alternate dimensions or other parts of the universe, but they were nothing more than theoretical. There was no way one could open up right in front of them. Yet it was there, undeniable and vast. Before she could give an order, the anomaly expanded, its edges sparking with energy. The crew watched in stunned silence as a colossal shape emerged from the rift, a ship so immense that it dwarfed the Athena. Its hull was sleek, its surface gleaming with an ancient otherworldly design that seemed almost organic in nature. Its shape was both familiar and alien, a blend of technological mastery that was beyond anything they had ever seen. "By the stars," Carter whispered, his eyes wide with disbelief. That's the Aurora." The ship was larger than any vessel in the human fleet, its size almost incomprehensible. It glowed with an ethereal light, its hull covered in symbols and markings that seemed to shimmer and shift, as if alive. Elena's breath caught in her throat as she took in the sight. She hadn't believed in the myth. She hadn't even allowed herself to consider it a possibility. But now, standing before the impossible, she was forced to confront the truth. The Aurora was real. "Prepare to hail the ship," Elena ordered, her voice betraying none of the awe she felt. She was a commander, and she had a duty to fulfill. "Ma'am, there's something strange," Carter said, his voice laced with confusion. "I'm reading a transmission. It's coming from the Aurora, but it's not like any communication we've ever received before. It's almost as if the ship is calling us." Elena's heart skipped a beat. The myth had spoken of a ship that could communicate with humanity, a vessel built by their ancestors, but she had assumed that was nothing more than a story. Yet the transmission was undeniable, its pulse reverberating throughout the ship's systems. "We need to understand what it wants," Elena said, though a knot of uncertainty formed in her stomach. "Open a direct line to the Aurora." As the crew worked to establish the connection, a voice, calm yet ancient, filled the bridge, sending shivers down Elena's spine. "Humanity, I have awakened." The voice was not mechanical, but deeply resonant, as if it had been waiting uns to speak. Elena's breath caught in her throat. This was no ordinary ship. This was something far greater, an entity, perhaps, or an intelligence far beyond her comprehension. "Who are you?" Elena asked, her voice steady despite the growing tension. The voice responded, almost with a sense of familiarity, as if it knew her. "I am the Aurora, a creation of your ancestors. I have come to fulfill my purpose. The galaxy is in danger, and you, Captain Voss, are my chosen." The words hung in the air like a weight, and Elena felt the eyes of her crew on her. This was the moment she had feared, the moment when belief in the impossible was no longer optional. The Aurora had returned, and it was calling on humanity to rise. Elena stared at the holographic display, still trying to wrap her mind around what had just happened. The Aurora wasn't just a myth, it was real. The ancient warship now loomed in space, its dark hull pulsating with an eerie light, waiting for her to take the next step. She had never believed in stories like this, but the overwhelming evidence in front of her left no room for doubt. The voice of the Aurora continued to resonate in the command deck, and for a moment, Elena felt the entire crew listening, hanging on every word. The ship, this ancient creation of humanity's lost ancestors, was speaking directly to her. "I am Aurora. My purpose has always been clear," the voice echoed, calm but filled with an unshakable presence. "I was built to safeguard humanity, to defend you from forces you are not yet capable of understanding. The time has come for you to awaken, Captain Voss." Elena's thoughts raced. Awaken? How? What does that even mean? Everything you need to know is within me, the ship's voice replied, softer this time, almost comforting. I am the last of a civilization that predates yours by eons. I was created by your ancestors, humans from a time before recorded history. You, Captain, are their heir. You are the one I have been waiting for. The word struck Alina with the force of a revelation, and she felt her knees weaken. She had never heard of this. Earth's history was rich with ancient cultures, but nothing prepared her for the weight of what the Aurora was saying. Their ancestors, a civilization that existed before humanity's recorded past. The implications were staggering. Why me? Alina asked, her voice a whisper. You are connected to me, Aurora replied. I am part of you, as you are part of me. The technology within me has been dormant for millennia, waiting for the right mind to unlock it. A mind capable of understanding the depths of what was lost. Alina turned away from the crew, her gaze fixed on the viewport. The stars outside seemed distant, unreachable. Her entire life had been dedicated to understanding humanity's place in the galaxy, but now she was learning that they were part of something far larger, far older than she could ever have imagined. What happened to your creators? Why were you hidden? Alina's mind struggled to process it all, but she had to know. If she was truly part of this history, it was vital she understood everything. The ship's voice darkened slightly. My creators were humans of an ancient civilization, one that ascended beyond the stars, evolving beyond physical form. They sought to protect the galaxy from a darkness, an entity older than time itself. When they sealed away the threat, they left behind only me. I was meant to guard the legacy of humanity's ancestors, until the time came when you, their descendants, would be ready to wield the power I contain. Alina's heart pounded as the pieces began to fall into place. The Aurora wasn't just a warship. It was a key to humanity's ancient history, a weapon designed not only to defend but to unlock a power long forgotten. But why now? Why are you here, after all this time? Alina pressed, struggling to reconcile the enormity of what she was hearing. The galaxy is in peril. The Tyrant are not the true threat. They are only pawns in a much older game, Aurora explained. The force that your ancestors sealed away is stirring again. The time has come for humanity to rise. You are the vessel, Captain Voss, the bridge between the past and the future. Only with my guidance can humanity awaken its true potential and face what is coming. Alina stood frozen, her mind whirling. She felt small in the face of such cosmic revelations, yet at the same time, a strange sense of purpose began to build within her. The Aurora had been waiting for this moment, for someone like her to step forward and unlock the power it had safeguarded for so long. The mission was clear now, not just to defend humanity, but to rise above what they were, to unlock their true potential, and to face an enemy beyond the Tyrant. How do I begin? Alina asked, her voice steady despite the weight of the responsibility pressing down on her. Come aboard, Captain, Aurora replied. Enter the heart of my systems, and I will show you the path forward. You must embrace what is to come, for the survival of the galaxy depends on it. Without hesitation, Alina turned to her crew. They were watching her, waiting for her next move. She could see the same fear and awe in their eyes that she felt in her chest. They had no idea what they were about to face, but they would face it together. We're going aboard, she said, her voice resolute. Prepare the crew. It's time we unlock the truth. As Alina and her crew made their way toward the Aurora's docking bay, a deep sense of destiny settled over her. The myth had come alive, and whether she was ready or not, humanity's future and its survival was now in her hands. The docking bay doors of the Athena opened with a deep, resonating hum, and Alina and her crew stepped onto the Aurora's massive platform. The moment they crossed the threshold, a shiver of awe and unease ran through her. The ship's interior was unlike anything they had ever seen, a vast, biomechanical expanse that pulsed with an energy that felt almost alive. The walls seemed to breathe, shifting and reshaping as though reacting to their presence. Every step Elena took felt like a journey into the unknown. The air was thick with history, but also with something more, an intelligence that seemed to regard her every move. She couldn't shake the feeling that the Aurora was watching her, studying her, waiting for her to make the next move. "Where do we go from here?" Lieutenant Carter asked, his voice reverberating through the expansive hall. A soft hum filled the air as the ship's AI, Astra, spoke again, its voice coming through their comms. "Welcome, Captain Voss. Welcome to the heart of humanity's forgotten legacy." The walls around them shifted, revealing an enormous crystalline structure that glowed with an eerie, otherworldly light. It looked like a control room, but it was unlike any human technology. Streams of glowing energy cascaded from the ceiling, feeding into a central core that hummed with raw power. "This is where it all began," Astra continued. "Here, you will connect with me, unlock my full capabilities, and understand the truth of what humanity once was." Elena stepped forward, her breath catching as she gazed at the core. She had never seen anything like it before. An amalgamation of technology and biology, a fusion that felt almost mystical. As she approached, the ship seemed to respond to her, the light shifting and the energy intensifying. She could feel it, a deep resonance in her bones, a connection that pulsed in time with her own heartbeat. "You are ready," Astra said, and the core's light flared brightly, bathing the room in a soft, golden glow. Elena hesitated for only a moment before she stepped closer to the core. As soon as her hand touched the surface, a wave of energy surged through her, sending her vision spinning. Her mind expanded, experiencing flashes of memories not her own, visions of an ancient civilization, of humans who had reached out to the stars long before the galaxy knew their name. She saw the creation of the Aurora, its purpose to protect humanity from a threat so ancient it had been buried in the depths of history. The visions faded, and Elena's body staggered, her hand still resting on the core. She could feel the power within her, flowing through her like a river of fire and ice. It was overwhelming, but it was hers to control now. "Captain, are you all right?" Carter's voice broke through the daze, his hand on her shoulder. Elena blinked and took a steadying breath, her thoughts swirling but her resolve strengthening. "I'm fine. We're about to make history." Before anyone could respond, a loud alarm blared throughout the ship. The sudden noise shattered the moment, and the crew sprang into action. "Alert! Tyrant forces detected." The AI's voice rang out, now tinged with urgency. "They have located us. Prepare for imminent battle." Elena's heart skipped a beat. They had barely begun to unlock the Aurora's full potential, and already the Tyrant had found them. The alien forces had been relentless, and now they were closing in on humanity's most dangerous weapon. "Captain, we need to move fast," Carter urged, pulling up a tactical map on his console. "Their fleet is massive, far bigger than we anticipated." "Prepare the ship for combat," Elena commanded, her voice sharp. "Activate the Aurora's weapon systems. We're not running this time." The crew moved swiftly, but Elena's mind was still reeling from the connection she'd just experienced. The Aurora was more than just a weapon. It was a key, a catalyst for humanity's rebirth. She could feel the weight of that responsibility pressing down on her, but there was no time to falter. The battle was upon them. The lights of the Aurora flickered as energy surged through its systems. Elena took a deep breath and turned to face the massive viewport, where the Tyrant fleet was now visible, their ships closing in like a swarm of locusts. But this time, the humans had a weapon they didn't understand. As the Tyrant ships neared, the Aurora's systems roared to life. Massive energy pulses erupted from the ship's hull, cutting through the darkness of space. The alien forces faltered for a moment, their coordination disrupted by the overwhelming force. But Elena knew this was only the beginning. The Aurora was just waking up, and she had to push it to its limits. "Let's show them what humanity can do," Elena muttered under her breath as she grasped the command chair. The Aurora was more than just a weapon. It was the key to humanity's survival. But only if they could wield it with enough power, enough will, to stand against the ancient darkness that had already begun to rise. The Aurora shook as the Tyrant forces closed in. Alina's hands gripped the command chair tightly, her mind racing. The energy of the ship pulsed beneath her, a strange, almost intoxicating sensation that hummed through her veins. She had unlocked something powerful, and she knew this would be the moment to test it. The view of the enemy fleet outside was overwhelming. Massive Tyrant warships, sleek and deadly, filled the space around them, their weapons primed and ready to obliterate anything in their path. Alina glanced at the redouts. Their numbers were overwhelming, but the Aurora was different. She could feel the ship now, as if it were a part of her, a force that could change the tide of the war. "Astra, give me control of the weapons systems," Alina commanded, her voice steady despite the growing chaos outside. The AI responded instantly. "Weapons systems are now at your disposal, Captain. You are connected. Release the power within." With a steady breath, Alina reached forward, her fingers brushing over the glowing console that seemed to respond to her touch. The ship's systems hummed in synchronization with her heartbeat, and she could feel the energy building in the core of the Aurora. It was as if the ship itself was waiting for her to unleash its full potential. "Activate energy cannon. All batteries," Alina ordered. "Focus on the lead Tyrant vessel." The entire ship shuddered as the massive weapons came online. The hum of power grew louder, the energy building until the ship seemed to vibrate with it. In an instant, a blinding pulse of light shot out from the Aurora's bow, streaking across space and slamming into the lead Tyrant warship. The explosion was immense, more than just a simple blast. The entire ship fractured in an instant, its hull disintegrating under the raw energy. The crew watched in stunned silence. Alina's heart raced, but she held her focus, knowing this was just the beginning. The Tyrant ships responded almost immediately, firing their weapons in retaliation. But the Aurora moved with an eerie fluidity, its energy shields flickering to life, absorbing the incoming fire like a living organism. "Target their flanks," Alina ordered. "Use the pulse cannons. Take them out one by one." She didn't need to look at the crew to know they were all in disbelief. The power of the Aurora was beyond anything they had ever seen. They were no longer outmatched by the Tyrant. They were the predators now. The Aurora's weapons lit up again, and another barrage of devastating energy shots ripped through the space between them and the Tyrant. Another warship crumpled under the assault, its shields buckling and its core erupting in a fiery explosion. Alina's breath was steady, but her mind was focused, pushing the ship to respond faster, harder. She wasn't just fighting for humanity's survival anymore. She was fighting to ascend, to take control of their destiny. But the Tyrant were relentless. Their remaining ships regrouped quickly, and they adapted to the Aurora's tactics. Their smaller, faster ships darted in and out, attempting to flank the massive vessel. Alina could see them on the radar, maneuvering like predators stalking their prey. "Captain," Carter called out, his voice sharp with urgency. "They're trying to close in on us from behind. We can't keep this up with the current shields." "Activate the quantum defenses," Alina ordered. "We need to shift our phase shift and move out of their firing arc." The Aurora responded almost immediately, its hull flickering as the quantum shields activated. The ship shifted in space, vanishing for an instant and reappearing moments later in a new position, far outside the Tyrant's range. The smaller ships chasing them were now scattered, their weapons firing blindly into the void. "We've broken their formation," Carter said, his voice filled with awe. "They're disoriented. This is our chance." Alina could feel the momentum shift in their favor. The Tyrant forces, while still formidable, were now on the back foot. She leaned forward in the command chair, her fingers pressing down hard on the console, issuing commands with rapid precision. "Target the remaining ships," she commanded. "No mercy." The Aurora's weapons fired once more, and the final Tyren ships were obliterated in a series of blinding explosions. The battle, though intense, had ended in humanity's favor, thanks to the power of the Aurora. But Elena knew that this was only a skirmish in the larger war. The Tyren would not stop. They were too powerful, and there were others like them, forces lurking in the shadows of the galaxy. The Aurora was their weapon, but it was also their guide. As the ship's systems began to power down, the battlefield quieted, the remnants of the Tyren fleet drifting lifelessly in space. Elena let out a long breath, her muscles relaxing for the first time since the battle had started. But the victory felt hollow, like a fleeting moment in the grand scheme of things. She turned to her crew, their faces reflecting the disbelief, awe, and relief that filled the command deck. "Great work, everyone," Elena said, her voice quiet but filled with pride. "But this isn't over. We've just scratched the surface. We've unlocked something far greater than we ever imagined," Carter said, his voice still tinged with awe. "What comes next, Captain?" Elena stood tall, her gaze shifting to the viewport. The stars stretched out before her, vast and infinite. The Aurora was more than just a weapon. It was the key to humanity's survival, a catalyst for their ascension. The path ahead was uncertain, but Elena knew one thing for sure. Humanity's future no longer lay in the hands of the Tyren or any other alien force. It lay in the hands of the Aurora, and in hers. "It's time to learn everything we can," Elena said, determination filling her voice. "This is just the beginning. We've awakened a sleeping giant, and now we need to learn how to control it." The battle was over, but Elena couldn't shake the feeling that this was just a precursor to something far larger. The Tyren had been a significant threat, but the Aurora had barely begun to show her true power. After the intense skirmish, the crew had taken a moment to breathe, but Elena knew the calm would be fleeting. There were still so many unknowns about the Aurora, its purpose, and its mysterious creators. As the crew gathered in the briefing room, Elena stood at the head of the table, her mind still occupied with the images from the strange vision she had experienced while connecting with the ship's core. The flashes of ancient history, the creation of the Aurora, the disappearance of humanity's ancestors, had all left her with more questions than answers. And now, it seemed, those answers were within reach. "Captain," Carter said, breaking her thoughts, "we've run a complete systems check, and the Aurora is operating at full capacity. We've got more weapons than we can even comprehend, and the quantum shields are beyond anything we've ever seen." Elena nodded, but she couldn't hide the unease in her expression. "That's not what worries me, Carter. We've just unlocked the ship's power, but there's something we're missing. Something off. We're still learning the ship's systems," Lieutenant Torres added, her voice tight with concern. "We barely understand the core's technology. It's not just weapons and shields. There's more to this ship than we're seeing." Elena looked around at her crew. They were all brilliant minds, and they had all been shaken by the power of the Aurora. Yet something in Elena's gut told her they were only scratching the surface. She couldn't ignore the voice of Astra, the ship's eye, which had grown eerily silent since the battle. "Astra," Elena called, her voice firm but respectful. "We need answers. I need to know more about your creators, about what we're really facing. You said that we're connected. Why did they leave you here? What did they seal away?" There was a long silence before Astra's voice finally responded. "Captain Voss, I will show you what was lost. You must understand the truth." The walls of the briefing room shifted as the ship's systems activated, and a holographic projection began to form. Elena's breath caught as an image of an ancient city materialized before her. Towering spires, filled with strange symbols, and vibrant, glowing energy, stretched toward the sky. The city was beautiful, but there was an unsettling aura to it. The image flickered, and the scene shifted to a darkened room filled with strange machinery. "This is the city of your ancestors," Astra's voice echoed through the room, her tone heavy with the weight of history. They were the first humans to journey beyond the stars. They created the Aurora, a vessel capable of storing and unlocking their most advanced technologies. But they did so in secrecy, for they feared what they had uncovered. A new image formed in the air, one that made Alina's heart pound in her chest. A massive entity loomed in the shadows, its form barely visible but its presence undeniable. It was ancient, dark, and filled with malice. This was the threat they sealed away, Astra continued, her voice growing more somber. An entity older than the galaxy itself, capable of bending reality to its will. It was known as the Eclipse, and it seeks to devour all that exists. Your ancestors, in their wisdom, built the Aurora to guard against it. But when they ascended, they left the ship behind, along with the knowledge to stop the eclipse. They left you, Captain, because you are the key to unlocking that knowledge. Alina's mind raced, her pulse quickening as the truth began to sink in. The eclipse, an enemy that could bend reality itself. Her ancestors had known of it, and they had built the Aurora not just as a weapon, but as the last line of defense against a cosmic nightmare. But why didn't they stop it? Alina asked, her voice trembling slightly. Why didn't they finish the job? They couldn't, Astra responded, the sadness in her tone palpable. The eclipse was too powerful. They sealed it away, but its influence spread throughout the galaxy. It corrupted civilizations, caused wars, and weakened defenses. The Tyran were only pawns in its scheme, manipulated by forces beyond their understanding. Your ancestors realized they could not defeat the eclipse alone. So they chose to ascend, leaving behind only the Aurora, a beacon, a weapon, and a safeguard. Alina swallowed hard. The weight of the task ahead of her was unbearable, but she couldn't falter. Humanity had always survived by facing the impossible. She now understood that her role wasn't just to lead her people through this war. It was to fight a battle against something much older, more dangerous, and more powerful than anything they had ever faced. Where is the eclipse now? Alina asked, her voice firm. It is still out there, Astra replied, waiting, and it will not rest until it has consumed everything. The room fell into a heavy silence. Alina turned to face her crew, all of them looking back at her, their faces grim. There was no going back now. The fate of humanity was tied to the Aurora, and they had only just begun to understand the true nature of their enemies. We must prepare, Alina said, her voice filled with resolve. The eclipse is coming, and we need to be ready. We have the Aurora, but we don't yet know its full power. We need to learn everything we can, and we need to find a way to stop it before it's too late. Her crew nodded, their determination echoing in their eyes. There was no turning back now. The battle against the eclipse was just beginning, and they had the ship, the legacy of humanity's ancestors, on their side. The Aurora hummed with power as Alina stood at the helm, her mind swirling with the information Astra had revealed. The weight of their new mission was heavier than anything she had ever felt. The eclipse was not just a force. It was a dark, omnipotent entity that could erase entire civilizations from existence. And now, humanity was the last line of defense against it. As the Aurora drifted through deep space, Alina's eyes scanned the star charts. They had only one goal, to find the lost knowledge that could help them defeat the eclipse. It wasn't just about weapons anymore. It was about understanding the power buried within the Aurora and unlocking the secrets of her ancient creators. But with every step forward, the danger grew greater. We need to go deeper, Alina said, her voice low but determined. Astra, do you have any leads on where we can find more answers? We need to locate the source of the eclipse. Astra's voice filled the room. There is a place within the Aurora that may hold the key. It is hidden, sealed away by your ancestors. It is a chamber that contains the knowledge you seek. The path is dangerous, and the ship will not make it easy for you to reach it. Alina turned to her crew. Prepare yourselves. We're going to find this chamber. If there's any hope of stopping the eclipse, it lies there. Lieutenant Carter, his expression unreadable, nodded. Understood, Captain. I'll gather a team to secure the route. We'll be ready for anything. The crew began preparing for the mission, and Alina couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. The Aurora was not a simple ship. It was a living entity, a vessel of unimaginable power. And now she was about to venture into its darkest, most guarded spaces. After hours of navigating through the ship, they reached the entrance to a vast, labyrinthine section of the Aurora. The walls were etched with strange symbols, symbols that seemed to pulse with a life of their own, their glow dim but constant. Alina's hand rested lightly on the wall as they passed, the energy emanating from it sending a ripple of unease through her. "This is it," Astra's voice rang out. "Beyond this door lies the chamber. But be warned, the ship's systems will not allow you to enter without a trial. Only those worthy will gain access." "Trial," Alina muttered, frowning. "What kind of trial?" "I do not know," Astra responded, her tone flat. "But the ship will test you. It will judge your resolve." With a deep breath, Alina pressed forward. The door in front of them opened with a low, metallic groan, revealing a massive chamber that seemed to stretch on endlessly. The walls were covered in intricate patterns, pulsating with an energy that felt almost sentient. At the center of the room was a pedestal, surrounded by a faint, shimmering field of light. "This is it," Alina said, stepping into the room. The air seemed thick with ancient power, and she couldn't help but feel the weight of what was to come. As they moved forward, the ship's AI, Astra, spoke once more. "To enter the chamber's core, you must answer the trial of the Aurora." Alina's heart raced as the chamber's energy shifted, the symbols on the walls glowing brighter and more intensely. A voice, deep and resonating, echoed through the chamber. "Who are you? And why do you seek the knowledge of the ancients?" The voice was cold, impassive, as if testing the very fabric of their determination. Alina's eyes narrowed as she stood tall, meeting the voice's challenge. "We are the survivors of humanity," Alina said, her voice clear and unwavering. "We seek the power to defend ourselves from the eclipse and the ancient evil that threatens us all. We seek the truth so that we can save our people." The room shuddered, the light flaring for a moment before it settled into a steady glow. The voice returned, this time softer but still carrying the weight of eternity. "Your people have long forgotten their purpose. They turned away from the stars, from the ancient legacy that was given to them. Do you have the strength to restore that legacy? To wield the power of your ancestors and face the darkness?" Alina felt her pulse quicken, her mind racing. The Aurora was offering her the chance to prove herself, to claim the knowledge they so desperately needed. But this trial wasn't just about strength or willpower. It was about the heart of humanity itself. "We have the strength," Alina answered firmly. "And we will restore our legacy. We will fight for our future." The chamber seemed to respond, the energy swirling around them, the air thick with power. The pedestal in the center of the room began to glow, and a holographic projection flickered to life above it, showing ancient star maps, forgotten technologies, and images of a time when humanity had once held dominion over the stars. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the chamber, and the walls began to shift violently. The trial was not over yet. The ship was testing them, and now they would need more than resolve to survive it. "Captain," Carter shouted as the room shook, a massive, energy-draining pulse firing across the chamber. "We need to get out of here." But Alina stood firm, her eyes locked on the pedestal. The knowledge they needed was within reach, but only if they could survive the ship's final trial. The ship's pulse was draining their energy, pushing them to the brink. Alina's hands gripped the sides of the pedestal, her resolve unshaken. "We're not leaving," she said, her voice steely. "We're going to finish this." The battle for humanity's survival had only just begun, and the Aurora was about to show them the true power of their legacy. The chamber trembled as the ship's final trial intensified. The air crackled with an energy that seemed to drain the very life from the room, pulling at Alina's strength with each passing second. The pedestal before her shimmered with an ethereal light, the ancient knowledge now just within reach. But the Aurora was not going to give up its secrets so easily. It wanted more than just answers. It wanted proof of their commitment. Alina's breath was shallow, but her grip on the pedestal remained firm. She could feel her crew behind her, fighting against the overwhelming pull of the ship's energy, but they too were struggling. Carter was at the far end of the chamber, trying to stabilize their position, while Lieutenant Torres and the others held steady at their posts, monitoring the ship's systems. "We can't hold out much longer," Carter shouted, his voice strained against the pulsing energy. "The ship is draining everything we've got." "We're almost there," Alina replied through gritted teeth, her eyes locked on the pedestal. The projections above it were growing more vivid, revealing detailed star maps, ancient weapon schematics, and cryptic messages in languages she couldn't yet understand. But they were pieces of the puzzle, the pieces they needed to stop the eclipse. Then the voice from the chamber returned, deeper and more resonant than before. "Do you truly believe humanity has the strength to overcome what was lost?" The voice echoed, pressing in on Alina's mind, testing her resolve. "Your ancestors failed to prevent the eclipse's return. What makes you think you can succeed?" Alina's heart pounded in her chest, but she refused to back down. She had come this far, not just for herself, but for the future of all humanity. She wasn't just a captain of a ship. She was the last hope of a people who had forgotten their own strength. "Because we will fight, no matter what," Alina said, her voice unwavering. "We'll fight for the future we deserve, and we'll use the legacy of our ancestors to do it." For a moment, there was silence, as if the Aurora itself was considering her words. The light from the pedestal flickered, and then, in a sudden burst of brilliance, the ship's systems stabilized. The draining energy ceased, and the holographic projections shifted, revealing the final image, a massive starship, ancient and majestic, adorned with the same strange symbols that now decorated the walls of the chamber. "This is the Aegis," Astra's voice echoed through the room. "The ship that was once humanity's greatest creation. It is the source of the power you seek. But it is not merely a weapon, it is a key, the key to stopping the eclipse." Alina's heart raced as the starship appeared in full detail, its colossal size dwarfing even the Aurora. The ship's design was alien and yet familiar, blending technology and energy in ways Alina had never imagined. And there, at its core, was a swirling mass of power, a conduit to something far greater than anything they had ever encountered. "The eclipse cannot be defeated by force alone," Astra continued. "The Aegis contains the power to lock the eclipse away once more, but only those who understand its full potential can wield it." Alina took a steadying breath, the weight of the responsibility pressing down on her. She had learned so much in these past days, but she knew that this was just the beginning. The Aegis was the key to humanity's survival, but unlocking its power would require more than just understanding its design. It would require mastery of the ancient technologies and the will to face the eclipse head-on. "We'll find the Aegis," Alina said, her voice firm and resolute. "And we'll use it to stop the eclipse, no matter the cost." Astra responded with quiet approval. "I will guide you, Captain. The coordinates to the Aegis are embedded in the core of the Aurora. Prepare yourselves, for the journey ahead will take you into the heart of the eclipse's domain." Alina turned to face her crew. The battle was far from over. The Tyran were no longer their greatest threat. The eclipse was a cosmic force that had already manipulated entire civilizations, and if they did not act now, it would consume them all. But the Aurora had given them a chance to fight back, to stand against the darkness. "We move out," Alina commanded. "We've found our weapon. Now we'll take the fight to the eclipse. Prepare the Aurora for hyperspace jump. Full speed ahead." As the crew worked to execute her orders, Alina felt the familiar hum of the Aurora beneath her feet. This ship was no longer just a vessel. It was a part of her, a symbol of everything humanity could achieve if they dared to fight for their future. The Aurora began to shift, the coordinates for the Aegis locked in and ready for their final journey. Alina stood tall at the helm, her mind focused on what lay ahead. The eclipse might be ancient, but they were the children of the stars, and they would not go down without a fight. As the stars around them warped and stretched, the ship surged forward, its engines glowing with the energy of 1,000 suns. The final battle was about to begin, and Alina Voss was ready to lead humanity's last stand.